You're watching Let the Quran Speak. I'm Safiyyah, your host. Many people today are overwhelmed with financial pressure. Prices are rising, housing seems unreachable, and the future seems pretty uncertain. What does a person of faith make of all this? I'm here with Dr. Shabir. Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
Dr. Shabir, it seems like things are getting more and more expensive. Many people struggled through COVID and they thought that things would get better. But even now, prices just seem to be rising higher and higher. And many of the things that we took for granted in previous generations seem harder to attain for people of our generation. Things like housing, all the beautiful things of life seem harder to attain. So, Dr. Shabir, what advice do you have for people who are in a situation of anxiety and stress right now, thinking about the fact that prices may even rise higher as we go?
Yeah. So one is to look at the broad sweep of history. Humankind has been around, the Homo sapiens, for at least 200,000 years. And, we will keep going by the grace of God. There have been plagues, there have been a lot of natural disasters and so on, but humans have survived. And one way or another, we're going to make it happen with the grace of God. Now, looking at it from a religious perspective, God is in control, and God is going to make sure that things do not run out of control. There are times of difficulty, and God draws attention to this in His sacred scripture. In the Quran, God says, "Inna ma'al usri yusra, inna ma'al usri yusra." Certainly, with difficulty comes ease. With difficulty comes ease. So there's a repetition there. Scholars say that this means that the way it is worded in the Quran is as if to say that with the difficulty, ease is going to come twice. And so you're going to get double the ease after the difficulty. At the same time, the Quran warns us that there will be ease and difficulty both as tests from God. God is testing His servants as to how we would respond to Him, both in times of difficulty and in times of ease. So in times of difficulty, we have to be patient with God. In times of ease, we have to be thankful to God for the ease. But people get it all mixed up. And in times of difficulty, they say, "Where is God? We're not going to believe in God anymore." In times of ease as well, they figure, okay, we got everything we want by our own, abilities and so on. So what's the need for God, right?
Mm-hmm.
So both in times of difficulty and in times of ease, there are those who turn away from God. And then there are others, on the other hand, who in times of difficulty would turn to God and ask for His assistance. And in times of ease, they would also be thankful to God. So some are always on the side of God, regardless of circumstances, and those are the ones who actually pass the test. There is an interesting verse in the Quran that is known as Ayatul Bir, the verse about piety, or the verse that actually specifies what piety is all about. It's the second chapter of the Quran, the 177th verse. And there are several descriptions of who are the pious persons. Towards the end, it says, وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ. Those who are patient in misfortune and hard times and in times of war. It seems almost like to reflect on our present situation. Like, we're having high rising prices, as you mentioned, and we're in a situation where, the world is hanging on a balance, due to the war on Iran, a senseless and illegal war. And that is causing, the rise in the price of fuel and is having a rippling effect on the price of many other items that we need to consume.
Dr. Shabir, I noticed that a lot of people, even in affluent areas, are using food banks. So that's a really interesting phenomenon, that even amongst the wealthy, there are some people who are struggling that other people are not aware of, or that, by appearances, they seem like they're doing okay, but they need to use these food banks, right? So what advice do you give, Dr. Shabir, for those individuals who, they're struggling to keep up with everybody else? And they're feeling like, they're in this rat race and they have to keep up appearances, but at the same time, within, they know that they're having these difficulties.
Yeah, this is a difficult one for me. It comes as news to me that there might be people in that situation, though apparently wealthy, but they are in this difficulty. Well, the Quran draws attention to the fact that there may be people who are otherwise of good means, but they may be in a situation at a moment where they need some help. What do I refer to? The Quran in Surah 9, verse number 60, gives us the heads of or you can say the avenues through which zakat or the obligatory Muslim charity must be given or can be given. So and there are 8 heads of expenditure or 8 avenues through which the zakat could be spent. And one is the person who is traveling. Ibn Sabil, the Quran terms it. And I remember many years ago, decades ago, I was a young man listening to a sermon, and the sermonizer said that a person may be otherwise wealthy at home, but when they are traveling, they could, due to the circumstances, be penniless at that moment. Maybe they don't have access to their credit cards or whatever the case is, so they need help. So it's nothing to be ashamed of if we find ourselves in a situation where we need help. We can actually come forward. We can be honest about it. We don't need to hide it because that itself is just adding burden upon burden. First of all, there's the difficulty that you're in. Second, there is the burden of trying to keep it a secret. But of course, you don't broadcast it to any and everyone. You confide in some people who are close to you, who are sincere towards you, and who can help you in your difficult situation. And like with everybody else, we advise be patient with God, and times are going to get better. But at the same time, do what you can to repair your situation. If you're out of a job, then do what you can to secure a reasonable job. And if your business is not doing too well, find out what are the root causes and how to get your business up and running again and to be successful and so on. If you're a student in school and you're not doing well in your grades, well, you know what you have to do. You have to study more or study smarter. There are things that we can do to uplift ourselves, and we should do those things. And then at the same time, we put our trust in God. And the Quran says very clearly, وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. Those who want to put their trust, let them put their trust in God. And certainly God is deserving of our trust, and He's capable of helping us when we are in difficulty. We just need to call out to God.
And Dr. Shabir, the last thing I want to point out is that you don't have to keep up with the Joneses. You don't have to put up appearances to seem as if you're going to take this vacation, or you're going to buy this car, or you're going to do this thing just because everybody else is doing it. Know your means and live within it. And be thankful for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, right?
Absolutely. Yes. You don't have to, spend beyond your means. You know what income you're expecting, so you budget yourself, how much I'm expecting, and how am I going to spend that? How much for food, for clothing, for rent, for medicine, and also for leisure, and for travel and so on. So you know how much you can actually spend, and don't keep spending, and then the end you look at your credit card bill and ask yourself, OMG, how am I going to pay this, right? So my father used to say, hang your hat where you can reach it. In the old days, people entered the home and then they hung the hat on the hanger, right? So don't hang it too high, because how are you going to get up there to reach it, right? So, spend according to your means. Live within your means.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiyyah and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.